This is my friend, Finn. When I was in high school, Finn's father became one of my closest friends. And there have been many times since then that I would say Finn's father was my best friend. These days, though, Finn has replaced his father as my best friend. Around his first birthday, Finn's doctors began to note that he was having problems developmentally. By the time he was 18 months old, they had identified that he had a rare genetic disorder called Angelman syndrome. It broke my heart because I was terrified for Finn's future, and I started doing a lot of reading and research, which was a little devastating at first. Let me read from the Wikipedia page on Angelman syndrome. There is currently no cure available. Seizures are a consequence, but so is excessive laughter, which is a major hindrance to early diagnosis. The epilepsy can be controlled by the use of one or more types of anticonvulsant medications. Many individuals with Angelman syndrome sleep for a maximum of 5 hours at any one time. Early intervention with physiotherapy is important to encourage joint mobility and prevent stiffening of the joints. Those with the syndrome are generally happy and contented people who like human contact and play. People with AS exhibit a profound desire for personal interaction with others. Communication can be difficult at first, but as a child with AS develops, there is a definite character and ability to make themselves understood. People with AS tend to develop strong nonverbal skills to compensate for their limited use of speech. It is widely accepted that their understanding of communication directed to them is much larger than their ability to return conversation. Most afflicted people will not develop more than 5 to 10 words, if any at all. Let me read you a bit from Finn's father's blog. The other big news from the week is that Finn continues to make great progress with his pod book. There have been some unexpected side effects, though. The big one is that Finn and his mom are starting to get into arguments. Earlier this week, for instance, Finn really wanted to watch TV. So he used the book to say, "I want to watch TV." Tina then explained to him that it wasn't time to watch TV and that he wasn't allowed to watch TV until she was preparing dinner, so he would have to wait. At which point, Finn used the pod book to adamantly say, "I want to watch TV." He also used the book to demand cheese with dinner, to require us to change the channel on the TV, and to show his boredom with an activity by simply asking for something else. A couple of weeks ago, Finn's parents attended a fundraiser for people with Angelman syndrome, and Finn's father wrote this. "We were lucky enough to spend a few minutes talking to Dr. Eden Weber, a leading Angelman researcher who has cured AS in mice. He firmly believes that the only thing standing between him and making a breakthrough with respect to AS is funding, and he seems to be reliant on private donations to pay for his research, because federal funding is not readily available. Basically, with respect to genetic conditions, the U.S. government tends to fund researchers who are looking at very common diseases and disorders like autism, Down syndrome, and Alzheimer's disease. That might make sense from a political perspective, but it overlooks the fact that those diseases are very complicated and will likely be much harder to cure than AS, but millions of people are diagnosed with autism, which is a couple of orders of magnitude greater than the number of diagnosed AS patients. Accordingly, the government isn't likely to fund research in this area anytime soon. I don't profess to know anything about genetic research, but I do have an idea for a way to bring even more attention and hopefully money to this cause. I'm also not a scientist, but I know that some of the contributing causes for autism are genetic, and I hope that if Dr. Weber can find a cure for the simpler genetic problems that cause Angelman syndrome, that it can be the basis for genetic research of more complicated disorders, and maybe my friend can find himself in a world where he fits more comfortably otherwise. My project for Awesome Video is to support Finn by asking you to learn more about Angelman syndrome by following the links below. And if you can find it in your budget to donate a little money, Finn and I will certainly be grateful.